Therese Belvet. Carol. Tell me you know what you're doing. I never did.
Hello, Rooney. So the word lesbian is never said once in the movie, but that essentially is, I think, the modern term for it would be sort of her coming out in a way. She's decided that she's going to take this leap. In terms of not the technical stuff, but in terms of what you and Todd talked about in terms of Therese, what was that like, talking to him about the ending?
I don't know. To me, the ending is sort of more open-ended than that. I mean, I never really thought of it in terms of lesbianism or not. It's just, it was just love to me. But, I think the end is beautiful in that it has a lot of hope. But, I mean, if they were to get back together, the hard part is sort of just beginning.
Yeah.
Like, 3 years into the relationship, we'll see. Like, then if there's still hope left. But I think it's beautiful in that there's hope, but I don't think it's, just a sort of happy ending.
Right.
It's much
It's
more
open.
complicated than that. Yeah, it's open.
Neither one of them is put into an institution or
Yet,
there's
not yet.
no man flies in to save the day.
Right.
And which is true in the book that it's based on, right?
Yeah, that's exactly how the ending of the film is very true to the book, and that was very rare for this type of story. It usually did
1952,
end
it was
in institutionalization or death or
yeah.
suicide.
Had you read the book before you ever heard of the film version?
No, I hadn't. I had never heard of it, and of course I read it whenever I signed on to do it, and I had it with me every day on set. The book is written entirely from Therese's point of view, so it was an incredible thing to have that, because you get her stream of consciousness throughout the entire story, and anytime I didn't really know what to do, you just go to that, and
Yeah.
it's all right there for you.
Yeah, in a way the book could help you in a way that it couldn't really help Kate very much. I mean, she's the object of desire in the book much more so than in the film, right?
Yeah, I mean, Phyllis did a lot with Kate's character, with the character of Carol in the actual screenplay. In the book, because it's entirely from Therese's point of view, she is sort of this object, and Therese is just obsessed with her, and you really feel that in the novel, and so you don't really see her as a real person.
Right. So you had it with you on set, you said?
Yeah, I mean, like in my trailer,
Right.
sometimes on set, sometimes just in the trailer.
But some days you would just flip through it and just see like...
Yeah, I had like things highlighted, or there's certain moments in the there's a lot of silence in this film, and so it was good to be able to fill that silence with the thoughts that were already in the book.
Yeah. So go back to the beginning and talk about the first time when this came your way, I guess as a screenplay, and you were being approached to do it.
The first time it came my way, I can't remember. I should probably find out, because I always have to talk about this, but I can't remember exactly when it was, but it was at a time where I'd either just finished Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, or it was right after I'd finished 4 films in a row, which was after Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, and whichever it was, I was exhausted, and I couldn't imagine myself playing any part, and there was many wonderful pieces of material that I read that I passed on, and this was one of them. I read it, and obviously I'd been obsessed with Kate since I was 13 years old, and I saw her in Elizabeth, so it's shocking to me now to think that I would pass up the opportunity to be in a film with her, let alone be her lover. But I did. I was in a very, strange, low headspace where I really couldn't imagine myself in anything. And then lucky for me, it came back to me, I think it was a year or more later, and I hadn't worked in an entire year, so I was in a much different headspace. And I read it again, and this time Todd was attached to it. And it was a very easy yes at that point.
Right. Even though it must be an intimidating script to read if you're going to play Therese, because she is somewhat of a passive figure with not as much dialogue, not as much action. Did you wonder if you could do enough in the film?
Well, I mean, I wasn't really. I mean, yes and no. I myself am a very quiet, subtle person, so that part of it didn't scare me so much. But definitely, when you're a passive character, and the person on the other side of you is Kэрol, who's so not a passive character, and you know it's going to be Cate Blanchett. I was definitely scared, and I sat down for about a week with this acting coach that I work with sometimes, Bob Krakauer, and we just spent a few days going through the script, being like trying to figure out what I could do, what I could bring to it. And so I was definitely a little intimidated by it, but that was, I think that's one of the great gifts that Todd and Phyllis gave to the film, was allowing for the film to have this sort of pace and nuance and subtlety.
One of the most sort of beautiful and very enigmatic lines in the movie is when Kate says about you, "What a strange girl you are, flung out of space."
Yes.
How did you internalize that description? I mean, is it possible to? It's so spooky a way of...
It is. It's a very strange thing to say, but I wouldn't find it strange if someone said it to me. I would. It would make sense, I guess. I don't know. Yeah, I don't. It was challenging because I wasn't really quite sure how that fit Therese. Now, seeing the film, it totally makes sense. But yeah, that was definitely a point of interest when I was sort of figuring out what to do and reading through the script. Was that line was definitely a huge point of interest for me.
Right. So Todd Haynes being attached on the second time around with the script, that was, you'd said before, that was like an added bonus, I guess. You knew of his work? You must have, right?
Oh, yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I was a huge fan. I'm a huge fan of all of Todd's work. Yeah, I mean, I was like, I didn't even have to reread it. I did reread it, but I wouldn't have even had to.
I've heard that on the set he's very open to anyone's opinion. He's very non-hierarchical. He doesn't sort of make himself the sort of master of everyone there. How was it like working with him?
Kate often describes it as sort of like, what does she say? Like it's like being at a sleepover at summer camp, or like being on a student film. He's so excited, and yeah, he's got no ego. He's so collaborative and open-minded and open-hearted. And one of the things I love about Todd is just he really, and his body of work shows this, not just Kэрol, but his entire body of work. He just really and truly loves and understands women. They're not a mystery to him, or they are, but he's not intimidated by that. They're just humans, and he really loves and adores them, and you can feel that in all of his work. And it really made me sort of show up to set feeling proud of being a woman and proud of being in this story and to be a part of his body of work. And you just sort of felt very, it made you feel very safe and free and open to do whatever you had to do without sort of fear of embarrassment or shame, or that you can kind of do no wrong with Todd.
Yeah, it's amazing because the women are never really adjuncts to men, and yet the men are not villains either. I mean, they're a little harsher in the Highsmith book, but Jake Lacey, who you've shared scenes with as that character, and also Kyle Chandler, they're kind of decent guys. Just
they're kind of like, well, Jake, and he was like kind of doofy. Felt kind of bad for him.
Right. What was the collaboration with him like? I mean, I'm imagining it was very free, but did you and Todd Haynes discuss Therese at length, or was it more about just a shorthand developing?
We didn't I wouldn't say at length. I mean, we were so lucky in that we had the book. There's only so much we needed. It was all there for us.
Yeah.
But we definitely, I think I started talking to Todd around July maybe, and we started shooting in March. So we had that whole entire period of time where but I didn't meet him in person until March. He was constantly sending me music, like mix CDs of music, different visuals, different things to watch. You know, we definitely kept in touch throughout that entire time about it, but it wasn't really until I got to Cincinnati and we had those 2 weeks of rehearsal that we really kind of delved into it.
Did he send you movies to watch?
He didn't send me he sent me names of things to watch. Lovers and Lollipops was sort of our main point of reference for just sort of accent and mood, and that was sort of more the vibe, the feeling he was going for. Because there's so many different types of films from that decade, and Kэрol was going to be very different than the other films he's made in that decade, and he wanted to be clear about that.
And the fact that the character Therese has changed from the novel, where she's an aspiring set designer for theater, into a photographer.
Yeah,
in the film.
That was one of the main changes from the book to the film, and I think it was such a smart, useful change that they made. Because through that, you get to see Therese's growth as a woman and as an artist. You know, she starts off unable to really photograph people, and in her life, she's sort of unable to really have any real connection with people. She feels very alone, even though she is surrounded by people. And then through Kэрol, she gets to sort of this whole new world opens up to her. And
yeah. Question about acting in a very emotional scene when you're leaving Kэрol's house and back on the train and you start to cry just because it's all the stuff just kind of building up in one moment. But you have to emote that way, but also seem like you're trying not to, right? Because you're in a public, you're on a train, and you don't want everyone looking at you. How do you do that?
Well, I mean, isn't that the only way to cry? I mean, it's very rare in anyone's lifetime where they really just let themselves cry. I mean, usually when a person is crying, they are trying to fight it in some way. At least that's how I live my repressed life. But, so that's kind of, there's just, certainly on a train, that was the way to go. I mean.
Is it easy for you?
To cry? It just depends. That was really that was really easy that time. But it just depends where you are in your life and also what's happening. You know, I don't normally like take things from my own life to make myself cry. I don't do that. I believe I am in the moment. I am the person, and these things are happening to me. But that particular day, I did have some sort of horrible personal things happening to me, so I was in a more emotional space as it was, so it made it easier.
Were you on an actual train, or was it a soundstage?
Oh my God, it was an actual train.
It was?
Yeah, it was.
That's one of the things about that Kэрol that people who don't know, it was shot in Ohio, in Cincinnati, Ohio, which has this preserved in time quality. Seems like old New York, right?
Yeah, it really. At first, I was really disappointed because when do you ever get to work in New York?
Right.
And my family's here, and I love being able to work here. But as soon as we got there, we all sort of realized what a gift it was to be shooting there, because we did feel like we were sort of put in a little time capsule. And it's a beautiful city, and everyone, the entire crew, everyone, it was really a gift to be able to shoot there.
So, Cate Blanchett. That's just a question, I guess. You said seeing her in Elizabeth when you were 13 was sort of a pivotal moment for you.
I mean, wasn't it a pivotal moment for anyone who saw that film? Right. Well, I don't know. When you're 13, I haven't seen it in years and years. I'll have to revisit it. But yeah, I mean, I went with my mom to the local cinema right down the street, and she's like, talk about flung from space, or whatever the line is. I mean, that's how I felt seeing her in that film.
And then what was she like as a co-star and collaborator and friend?
She's everything sometimes you sort of meet your heroes and it's a horrible letdown. It wasn't that at all. She lived up to everything I imagined she would, and then she was also so much more. You know, those first 2 weeks in the rehearsal room, she's really, I know this now, but I didn't know it before, she's really funny. She has that Australian sense of humor and wit, and she's really, really quick and funny. And she's also, she's just also a regular down-to-earth woman, you know, like trying to find her glasses and can't find them. And she's just a normal freak of nature woman.
And a director herself of theater mostly. I think she keeps talking about directing a feature film, but you know, that must be great in a way to have someone who's also can be involved in the technical aspects of doing things.
I mean, and she had worked with Todd before, and she's brilliant and wonderful to work with, and we had a very similar work ethic, and so it was very easy to work with her.
How much does Todd shoot? Does he do a lot of takes? Does he let you decide?
I can't really remember. People are always very curious about takes, and unless it's something like shooting with Soderbergh, who does so few that like sometimes it's hard to forget that, or shooting
Right.
with Fincher, who
Fincher,
shoots
right.
so many, it's hard to forget that. I don't really know. I mean, this was such a small budget, and we shot on actual film, so I don't think he shot. I think he shot as much as he needed to. We had to be very careful with time and money. So, he shot until he thought he had it, but we definitely had to be on it.
But because the performance that you're giving is so nuanced, and those sort of molecular changes sort of in your face are what we have to go by, did he let you do things again if you needed to, just to find that sweet spot?
Yeah. I mean, we definitely did multiple takes for sure. And I never know if it's good or not. I mean, sometimes I know if it's really bad, but I kind of have to. He's my eyes and ears, so I sort of just had to trust him if he saw it or not. I don't know how he saw those molecular changes on the little tiny monitor.
On film.
I guess he did.
I think that I heard too that the film lab that they sent it to here in New York has since closed. So there's now, I think, only one in America, somewhere in California, left.
So tragic.
16 millimeter film, not just.
I know, but I mean, the film looks so beautiful. You just can't. You can't
Amazing.
do that with digital. It's just not the same.
So one last thing, and then we'll ask you guys to ask questions. I feel like in a way that the ending of the film, just to go back to that again, is in some ways the sort of emotional opposite of the ending of The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo. Not to spoil it for anyone who hasn't seen it, but it's been out for 5 years. So, whereas that for
you
your
take that leap of faith to go back
and in one case it's sort of heartbreaking. In the case of Elizabeth Salander, and in this case it is just so heart melting. Do you find that those two characters sort of reside in you, and those two sort of those two feelings that they both experience?
I don't know. I mean, the characters to me have sort of nothing in common at all, except for that walk at the end, the walk of. But I mean, definitely, I feel more connected to Elizabeth in a lot of ways, which might seem really strange. I think I can relate to Therese in a lot of ways, like from being much younger. But by the time I played Therese, I definitely did not feel like that naive person. I definitely didn't feel like I had that innocence about. I mean, I don't. It's a beautiful quality, but I definitely didn't have it whenever I played the part. It was something I had to try and.
I don't think that Therese's name is ever, her age is ever given, but I don't think you've ever seen younger on screen than you do in this film.
Yeah.
You're about 10 years older than she is, more or less, maybe. She's in her early 20s, probably. Yeah,
I don't know. I mean, we shot the film 2 years ago.
I
think I had a birthday when we shot the film. I can't remember which one it was now, but yeah, I mean, I think at times Elizabeth feels very, very young, but older young. But yes, Therese feels young. She feels, I mean, she's innocent and naive, and she's like a beautiful little baby bird or something.
She is. All right, anybody have a question for Rooney? Anyone? Yes? There? Just shout it out.
It seemed to me like there was a very explicit reference to Brief Encounter, the Noel Coward movie. There's that flash forward at the beginning, and then you see that same scene later in the film. But it's imbued with more meaning because now you know the story of those two characters. Even to the detail of Cate Blanchett's character putting her hand on your shoulder. Was that deliberate? Do you know?
Yeah, it was, and it wasn't in the original. Well, there's been many scripts over the last 18 years, but it wasn't in the first script that I had read. That was something that Todd had sort of had Phyllis add in when he came on board. That was sort of what he brought to it, was that he wanted the point of view to shift numerous times, and he wanted that brief encounter sort of bookending of the film. And it was a beautiful thing that he added. It really, even in reading it, it made such a difference.
It changes the perspective too. I mean, it doesn't make it just a film seen through Therese's eyes, and for a movie to do that is remarkable.
Yeah.
Anyone else? If anybody didn't hear that, it was about Rooney, the potential to see Rooney on stage someday.
Yeah, I would really love to do theater. I'm looking for something now, but I don't want to do it unless it's something that feels 100% right, because I am terrified to do it. But I talked a lot with Kate about it, and with Sarah Paulson, who's also a wonderful theater actress and screen actress. But we talked a lot about theater, and actually, I did a film in July, David Harrower's Blackbird, which is a play, but we made it into a film, and that's a play that I loved since I saw it in, I think it was 2007 with Alison Pill, and it was on Kэрol that me and Kate were talking about theater, and I was saying how I wanted to do Blackbird, and she had done Streetcar with Benedict Andrews, the director, and she was like, oh, he's doing it, and he's desperate to have, and so the reason I did that film was because Kate told me about it, and but yes, I would love to do a play at some point.
You're inching closer. It seems like it's going to happen someday. Yes, sir, over here. Is there somebody?
Yeah. I was struck watching it, just sort of the iconic quality of the characters. I mean, I really felt like I was watching classic movie stars, like Audrey Hepburn or somebody. I mean, I kept trying to sort of place the characters referentially, to these old movies, and also somehow the gun in it made me think of film noir. I mean, it was, I don't know, I kept sort of bouncing off stuff that I had seen in the past, and I was wondering, to what extent that as a star, so to speak, there was a heavy emphasis on makeup or costume, or do you know what I mean? Or were you really,
Yeah, all of that. I mean, one of my favorite things about the film is that it really and truly feels like it could have been made in the 50s and that we just found it. It doesn't feel at all like that it was made in 2013 or 14 or whenever we made it about a certain time period. It's so authentic in every single piece of fabric and makeup and hair. And Todd is very involved in all of those things. He loves all of that stuff. And so we spent a lot of time and care in picking out each and every sort of thing you see, every prop, every hairstyle, every hat. It was sort of a huge part of creating this world.
I couldn't believe when I heard that that's a wig that you're wearing and also that Kate is wearing.
Yes.
Amazing work. I mean, that you can see her hairline. I mean, it's... Yeah,
I mean, the wigs are... Kate wears a wig almost all the time, and you can never tell. I mean, her hair people are brilliant. And yes, my wig was fantastic. It took a lot of fine-tuning, but yeah. So.
What's your favorite scene in the film?
I have a few. One of my favorites is the lunch scene with Kэрol.
Oh, yeah.
When Therese and Kэрol have lunch for the first time. It was the first scene that me and Kate got to shoot together where we really sort of had a back and forth of dialogue. Everything we'd done together up until that point was sort of really small little things, and this was like a meaty scene that we got to do together, and obviously the chance to do a meaty scene like that with Kate was just, it was amazing. It felt like a really good tennis match or something, and we had all day to shoot it, which was really luxurious for us on this shoot, and it's just such a beautifully nuanced scene, and the writing, and it was really fun to shoot that scene.
It's really even more of an accomplishment when you think of how you'd never shot almost anything in sequence here.
Yeah.
You had to chart her very gradual evolution, doing scenes all over the script, right?
Yeah, but I guess you're just used to
it.
that because you never shoot anything in sequence, so it's just, yeah.
2 more questions. Yeah.
Hi. Do you gravitate towards these, oddball, brooding characters, or do you, or do you try to look, when you're looking at scripts, do you go, this is a topic that's interesting me, or do you go by the actual character or the people who are attached?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know if Therese is an oddball, or maybe, I don't know. Maybe they're oddballs just because of me. I don't know. Maybe that's the thing I'm bringing to it. I don't know. I'm definitely drawn to I'm definitely drawn to certain types of material that is, a little bit sort of darker, I guess, or broody in a way. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why or what that is, but yeah, I don't know. I don't have a better answer to that.
When the movie premiered in Cannes at the film festival back in May, you were awarded the festival's Best Actress prize. Was that a surprise to you?
Yes, of course. No,
Well,
I wasn't. I was expecting it. No. I mean, yes, I was back. I had flown home, and I was I was up early because I had jet lag, and it was 6 in the morning or something, and I was doing my laundry. I was alone in my house, in my pajamas. I was definitely not expecting that.
Yeah, I just mentioned that. It just seems like it wasn't even from the publicity material. It wasn't the obvious choice in some ways because Kate is this swan-like big star, and yet I thought the jury really did recognize something in you that requires a certain soulfulness in the viewer to sort of pick up on. So.
Yeah. I mean, it's not always easy in life or in film to be sort of the quiet person in the room,
Right.
Especially in today's day and age where sort of extroversion is so much more appreciated by our society than introversion. And but you can't have one without the other in a film. Like my performance is nothing without Kate on the other side of it.
Right.
So.
Right. Yes. If you guys didn't hear in the back, it's a question about the sex scene in the film. As the questioner said, a very organic, very beautiful scene.
Yes. Well, we knew it was a super important scene. It's sort of the whole film, not the whole film, but it so much is leading up and building up to this moment, and it is this much needed sort of exhale for these characters, and they get to sort of completely let themselves go. And we knew how important that was. It was very uncomfortable to shoot. I think you said it didn't seem awkward. It was super awkward and uncomfortable to shoot. I mean, we shot it toward the end, so everyone was very comfortable with one another. And
that was a closed set, actually. I heard that's the one place where they did build.
Yes,
something
they built
for you.
it.
Yeah.
Yes, and it was closed. I mean, as closed a set as a movie set ever. They always say that it's a closed set, but I don't ever know what that means. I've done many a sex scene at this point, and I've spent a lot of time on sets naked, but it's always different. No matter, it's just always different. I think because I don't know, in this film, in playing Therese, who is sort of so naive and innocent, I felt really sort of shy about being naked. Whereas, for example, on Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, I was got so comfortable and used to being naked, I would go up to the monitor to get notes and to sort of see what he wanted me to do, like butt naked, and I would forget. And I didn't feel that way on this. I felt sort of very shy.
Maybe the time period, in a way, was rubbing off on you.
I was being method without even knowing it.
Right. Well, listen, thank you for this
Thank
miracle
you.
of a performance in a wonderful film.
Okay. Thank you.
Everything comes full circle. We gave each other the most breathtaking of gifts.